What's up, folks? I'm gonna touch on two things real quick. First, I find it very ironic that the first two things that Joe Biden talked about in his speech today was Dr. King and women's voting rights. I would just like to point out that the Democrats were the people who fought for segregation. Matter of fact, a lot of Joe Biden's good pals like Robert KKK Byrd and Joe Biden himself fought to keep segregation in place. Joe Biden actually said that he didn't want his children going to school in a racial jungle. Secondly, he was talking about people fighting to keep women from voting. Well, that would have been the Democrats. The same as the Democrats were the slave owners. The same as the Democrats were the KKK. The same as the Democrats were the party of Jim Crow. The same as the Democrats were the party of segregation. Now, of course, our fake media will never ask Joe Biden about any of his past, any of the things he did, any of the things he said. The fact that Trump was a womanizer, yes. But Trump had money and he could be a womanizer. A lot of women threw themselves at him. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he was not really a womanizer. He was more of a groper, invading your space, smelling of you kind of guy, kind of a creeper. Trump was also called a racist. The media loved hounding him about that one, even though he denounced it, I don't know, like 50 times on tape or something. But they've never even asked Biden about his racist remarks of his past and stuff, and they're not going to. They're not going to. Well, they may actually might. I'll get to that in a minute. But at this current moment, I just find it very ironic that people do not know their freaking history, and jackasses like us can stand on a stage and talk about shit that his party did like it was somebody else. No, it was the Democrats. Now, on to my next subject. And the Republicans suck too, especially the establishment Republicans. But one thing that I can say for the Republicans is they have always fought against the very things that the Democrats have always stood for. So, slavery, Jim Crow, the KKK, that's what the Republicans fought against. The Democrats stood for it. The women's right to vote, that was Republicans. Democrats fought against it. Anyways, let's get off that subject. I'm going to leave that subject alone because we now have a new president. Even though he is just a shell for them to move someone who could only get 1% of the vote in this country into office. He's a useful idiot. That's basically his job function. He is a useful idiot. He will not be our president. He might make it 6 months. He might make it a year. I don't see it going no farther than that. They might let him make it 2 years. He won't be making no decisions. But he will not finish this term. Mark my words, today is January 20th, 2021. Joe Biden will not finish this term. Kamala Harris will be the president. Now, keep in mind, she could not receive 1% of the vote. Not 1% of the vote during the primaries. Which is why she was ultimately forced to drop out. But like I said, Joe Biden is a useful idiot, and they are going to use him up. They're going to spit him to the side just like everybody else. So he will never finish his first term in office. Mark my words on this date. Now, on to the next subject, which I'm going to cover briefly and quickly because I've got shit to do. It's just the way it is. Number one, Joe Biden repealed all the great things that Trump did. And when I say the great things, I'm talking about doubling the child tax credit. I'm talking about cutting your federal income tax withholdings from your paycheck. Deregulation. Allowing fracking on federal lands. All the things that Donald Trump did. All those things are the things that made our economy boom. You got to remember, in 2015, when we were thinking about GDP and Barack Obama was saying his 1.8 GDP was a new norm. It wasn't going to be no higher. What was Trump going to do? Wave a magic wand? Well, yes, Trump waved that wand. He got in there, he used his brain. On his way out, Trump said, be careful. Be careful. It's complicated shit, Joe. What he's saying is the economy has been roaring all the way up to COVID. Even after COVID, we are having a better recovery than any other country in the world economically. The only other country that supposedly is having a good one is China, but they lie about their shit so much you never know what's true. Now, Trump warned him. It's a complicated formula. So, what does he do? What does he do? He goes in, he throws out all Trump's tax cuts, everything. So, what does this mean for us? Well, tax time's here. I hope you're not planning on spending the money you've been spending or getting back for taxes and spending the last few years, because you will not get that back. Child tax credit has been cut back in half. Boom. Where it was when Obama left office. Boom. Yeah. You got to remember, Trump doubled the child tax credit. So everybody was getting back these great returns for the past few years. You're not going to get that back this year. I hope you did not already spend that money, and I hope you're not planning on spending that money. You're going to be making less money. Yes, you heard me right. You're going to be making less money. For all those out there in the energy field, you're probably not going to have a job, a lot of you. And those of you that do retain a job, you're going to be taxed to death. So don't worry about it. And lastly, the regulations that are going to be reenacted, the Paris Climate Accord, things like that. All these things are part of a formula. The formula brought jobs back. It made us able to compete with the rest of the world again. It made Americans, lower to middle class Americans, actually have some spending money. The economy was booming. All that is going away as we speak. It is going away. Fuel prices are already up to $2.60 a gallon where I live. Okay, they were at $1.40 pretty much Trump's whole presidency. $1.30, $1.40. Now they're up to $2.60, so they've almost already doubled. And that's just in the last few weeks. Expect them to reach the same place they were during Obama's years. $4 to $5 a gallon, maybe $6. Now, Biden went all around the country saying he was not going to mess with the fracking. People of Pennsylvania obviously believed him because they voted him in office. So, as you lose your jobs, I hope you remember Donald Trump told you so. I also hope you remember, as Donald Trump said in his speech leaving, I hope your taxes don't get raised, but if they do, I told you it was going to happen. What everybody failed to realize, Donald Trump was not a politician. He didn't know how to be a politician. He knew how to be a businessman. He ran the country like a business. It was successful. Now we've got nothing but crooked politicians as far as the eye can see, and they are about to drain the American people flat. So I hope you have been preparing during Trump's years to take a loss during Biden's years, because we are about to take one hell of a loss. A lot of us will lose our jobs. This craziness about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, that's just going to make people lose their jobs. You got to remember, people don't have to employ you. And if it's going to cost them more to employ you than it would to replace you with a robotic, some kind of hands-free, that's what they're going to do. They're going to move to more of the vending style, to where machines bend. And all these low-skilled workers are going to lose their job. And they'll have Biden to thank for it. $15 an hour. Let's see how it works out. Also, companies that were able to invest money back into the U.S. creating jobs, no, they're gone. They just lost the tax incentives that kept them here. All you people out there that work for companies, these big companies, people will start losing their jobs if the companies stay at all. So I hope everyone's happy with that. So during a pandemic, we are going to do a few things. We're going to open the borders to bring people in who are not screened for COVID. COVID is going to get worse. Your finances are going to get a lot worse. All the money we send overseas is going to get a lot worse. Your taxes are going to get a lot worse. Your fuel costs are going to get a lot worse. There is, and I repeat, and I want you to remember this day. Remember this day, write it down that I said this. The dark winter that Joe Biden was talking about when he was running around the country lying to everybody is here. It is here. You better be prepared. And if you've already spent the money that you thought you were going to get that you're not going to get now, bad news, folks. You're in trouble. Lastly, Joe Biden will not do what's right for the American people. It won't happen. He is bought and paid for by China. As we run the national debt up, as we run poverty up, as they try to take guns, as they try to take religion, and as they try to take your First Amendment, remember, you were warned about it all. Remember, we were going one direction, and now we're going to do a total 360. And I want you to mark my words. Mark them all down. I want you to hold me to this. This is what I thought. And guess what, folks? 5 years from now, if I'm wrong, I'm going to say I'm wrong. 4 years from now, if I'm wrong, I'm going to say I'm wrong. I'm not going to say I'm wrong before we get at least 3 years into this administration. And I'll tell you why. A lot of this stuff is going to take time to take effect. It's not going to be instantaneous. It's going to take time to take effect. As it takes effect, we will go back to having the low GDPs. We will go back to unemployment numbers being the highest ever. And we're going to go back to everything costing you more than it does right now as you struggle to find a job, as you're getting taxed to death by the government. All these slimy, corrupt, hypocritical, piece of shit politicians we got, they'll be living the American dream while we're starving.